Hello, goddesses. Hello, hello. Leah here. I am kicking off our first goddess chat of 2022. As you are joining and as we wait for our first guest of 2022 to hop on, just drop in the comments where you're watching from or if you are catching the replay. You can drop replay. And I am just going to make sure that the techie stuff is working on my end. And yeah, if you can drop a comment, let me know you're here. That would be awesome. Hi, Crystal. Hello, hello. Here we go. Here comes Sarah Nicole. She should be joining us. Jessica, hi. Hi, Heather. Hi.
Hey, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Awesome. So some sisters are joining us. I'm just saying hello to everybody. We'll give it just a few more seconds and then we can get started. I'm going to turn these notifications off. Okay. Hi, Melody. Hi, Heather. Yeah. Hi, Chelsea. As you are joining, drop in the comments. Let us know where you are watching from. This sisterhood has grown to a global sisterhood, which continues to blow my mind and just expand my heart. So let us know how far reaching this is. Kat is in Denver. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Tia. Yes. Hi. And if you're watching the replay, you can drop replay and we will come back and chat with you. Beautiful. Cassie's here. Yeah, we got sisters all over. I actually just ended our virtual circle. So for those that don't know, and I'm seeing some of the sisters that were on Zoom with us pop in, once a month there's a virtual sister circle. So if you are one of these sisters that are not here in the Grand Strand like Sarah Nicole and myself, then you can join us on Zoom for a monthly sister circle. Hello, Jessica. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's get started. So just to do some proper introductions, my name is Leah 𝐒𝐚𝐿. I am the owner and founder of Her Sacred Circle event company, and I am the admin and creator of this collective Facebook group. It has very much turned from something that started when I was holding circles here in the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area. I created this Facebook group for us just to be able to stay in touch outside of circle. And then when COVID really, we were in the thick of COVID, everyone was feeling very isolated. Everyone was reaching out saying, can my sister join? Can my mom join? All of these women friends from other areas. And so now we have women from all over the globe. The name has shifted and here we are. And so I'm on this mission to reawaken sisterhood, reconnect women with the sacred feminine, and through that help guide women to remember their power, their magic, and their beauty. And that's kind of what these goddess chats are all about. So I'm so excited. What they're going to be is once a month, maybe twice a month, I'm going to bring on a sister from right here in our sisterhood community inside the Goddess Collective and just like speak about her awesomeness. Pretty much is what it's going to be. I want to hear, like, I know that all of you are so amazing and inspiring, and I read these posts and I see the things you share. So it's just another opportunity to introduce you to different members of the collective, to learn more about the gifts that they're sharing with the world. And it's a fun time to just pop on live and be in sisterhood. So definitely use the comment section to chat and say hello to us, to ask any questions. But without further ado, I would love to introduce this lovely sister with us, Sarah Nicole of Twisted Goddess Tarot and Twisted Goddess Crystals, just to name a few of the things that are in her bio. She is so many things, but a Clairaudient Tarot Reader, a Reiki Master, certified crystal healer, astrologist, and Crystal Macrame Jewelry Creatrix. And amazing at all of them. Like my sister, I'm so honored to have you here to chat with us. And I would love for the sisters that don't know you, that don't have the pleasure yet to know you personally, just to tell us a little bit about who you are and maybe how you even found the Goddess Collective, like what kind of brought you to the sisterhood and a little bit of your story.
Yes, yes. Hi, everyone. Hello, Leah. Thank you so much. This is so much fun. I love this, and I'm so excited for this to be an ongoing thing and to hear from other women in the group. And like, I was sitting there nodding when you were like, there's so much magic in the group, and each woman holds something so magical within them. So yeah, Sarah Nicole. I live here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've lived here since I was like 3 years old. So this is where I was raised and grew up around and where I've always been. Um, you named a lot of it. I do this full time now, so that is something new. In 2021, I left my day job and I get to play with tarot cards and the stars and crystals all day long, and I love it so much. And I actually just recently, yesterday, celebrated 7 years in recovery. So I am 7 years clean and sober as of yesterday. I have a very dark past. I danced with my shadows for a very, very long time. And I think that just amplifies my appreciation for the light, and it amplifies my appreciation for spiritual connection and for connection to other women, because that was a big part of me getting sober, of my recovery, was having a support group guiding me. And that's what brought me to the sister circles, to the goddess gatherings. Is I was friends with someone who posted about that they had come to a circle, I think almost 2 years ago now. And I was like, oh, I want that, because I had that for my recovery circle, but I wanted that at a broader level, just in spirituality in general. And I think that's where a lot of that magic happens, is being able to just connect with women on a deeper level, spiritually, and to just sit in a circle with women who come from all walks of life, who have all different problems in their lives, who are dealing with all different backstories, but to all come together and to sit in a circle and to know that in that moment, we're all here for the same purpose, and that's for spiritual connection, personal growth, and supporting a community.
Yes. I am so glad that you're magnetized to the sisterhood. It's such a blessing to have you in here. For those that don't know, every Sunday you'll see that Sarah Nicole shares a certain goddess card with us. And then you'll see her astro chats, which I love, her like forecast for the week ahead. They're some of my favorite things that really help me, with guidance. But before we kind of get into these different gifts that you have and just how amazing they truly are and how many people you impact, you mentioned the kind of the dancing with your shadows, and then also the appreciation for that and the light. And I know that I've moved through some of your containers with shadow work, but can you speak a little bit about the beauty in that duality? Because I feel like sometimes in the wellness and spiritual world, it can be that toxic positivity. And even me, like I'll be like, oh, I'm love and light, but there's such a beauty in dancing in the dark and looking at the shadows. And when I think of shadow work, you are someone that definitely comes to mind as a mentor. So just for women that may not be familiar, can you speak to that duality a little bit and maybe what those shadows can be, and just touch on that?
Yes, and it's actually perfect that we're speaking about the duality aspect, because part of what we were going to chat about today was the number 2 and the 2-2 portal that we are currently moving through right now. And 2 is a number of duality. It is a number of balance. And so there's the duality of the yin and the yang, and the light and the dark. And something that I often have to share with myself and with others is that there really is no good or bad. I was just having this conversation with someone recently about fate. One of the astrological events that happened during this 2-2 portal was the Venus and Mars conjunction. And that was where these two very different energies, the receptive feminine energy of Venus and that masculine active energy of Mars, came together and they met in the sky. And that was that bringing together. That was the completion of the yin and yang. And it was something that could bring about some fated experiences. And someone had asked me, fated good or bad? And I said, well, fate isn't good or bad. It just is, right? Fate just is. And I think we all have that experience with the fact that sometimes things have happened in our lives to teach us a lesson. And sometimes that lesson can be a beautiful experience, and it can be heart opening, and it can be magical, and it can be what we as humans would label as good. And then sometimes those lessons can be painful as hell and can be heartbreaking experiences, and what we as humans will label as bad, when really it was neither. It was just a lesson that we had to learn in one way. And that's what shadow work is. It's coming to realize that the emotions that I have, the behaviors that I have picked up through life, none are good and none are bad. They just are. And when I get mindful and I start to realize, what is this teaching me? Anger is one that I see sisters have the most struggle with. Anger shows us what we're passionate about. Anger shows us what we're willing to fight for. It's a teacher. It's not something to push away or label as a negative.
Yes, there were a lot of hearts going off for that one. So I definitely think some sisters resonated. And I find that so important. It's really interesting when there's like a collective message coming through, because in the circle we just did, a lot of what we spoke to is allowing things to exist as they are, and not judging it, right? And so looking at it. So I think that's beautiful. And definitely, you know, a takeaway from this chat is, how can you look at things that are coming into your reality, not as good or bad? Because, you know, that doesn't exist. It's just, it is what it is. And how can you witness it and then make choices, you know, based on, you know, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and kind of from that place versus the boxed in of good and bad. So thank you for touching on that. And since you did mention the twos, I would love to, you know, go ahead and dive into that a little bit for people that might be like, what are they even talking about? But if you aren't familiar, we are in a really powerful time. And I'm not even going to begin to start talking about it, because you're the person I go to learn all the things about this. So please share with us your wisdom on the twos, on what the hell is happening, and how we can harness this and use this to, you know, our advantage, and to just, yeah, all of it. Let me know all the things.
Yes. So if you're not familiar, we will speak in this in this group a lot. Leo will share a lot of posts each month about these portals that we are walking into. Some places, some people will call them ascension portals. Some people will call them activation portals or gateways. The one that some of you are probably most familiar with is the 8-8, the Lion's Gate portal. That one we hear about the most. But every month we get an opportunity to step through a portal, and a lot of times they're also called manifestation portals. And that's kind of the one that that's the word that I'll probably use the most with this one, because it's manifestation in a way that a lot of us probably aren't used to. What this one is giving us the opportunity to. So every month, so in January, we get 1-1. And then in January and February, a little bit different, because we actually get 2. We get, you know, 2-2, and then we get 2-22. Whereas March we'll get 3-3, and then April we'll get 4-4. So every month we have an opportunity. And I'm big on like, Gregorian calendar, it's man-made, so how accurate really is this? You know, but I also like to think of the fact that, you know, there are 12 months, and there are 12 zodiac signs. And so I take it in an astrology way, and about how we have 12 lessons to learn to integrate in our lives, and the lessons of each of the zodiac signs. So I'm going to kind of relate it to that a little bit. So 2 in numerology is the number of partnerships. It is the number of balance. It is the number of duality, and it is also the number of intuition, and it is connected to the moon. So the moon is connected to the number 2, and in tarot we see the number 2 pop up as the high priestess, and so this is that dark feminine, that mysterious feminine energy, you know, that intuitive feminine energy that we love so much. That is, we talk about the balance or the duality of the feminine and the masculine, but there's also a duality within the feminine herself. There are two, the feminine energy is so juicy because it's not just one thing. It exists in two different states. And in the tarot, we see it represented as the High Priestess and the Empress, where the Empress is that beautiful, you know, voluptuous mother energy, earth energy. She's got the baby and she's breastfeeding and she's very welcoming, that energy. She's what is depicted in movies as that typical feminine energy that we see or that we are attracted to. And then there's also the High Priestess feminine energy. She's a little bit less obtainable. She is mysterious. She's dark. She's hiding behind the curtain. She's hiding, maybe even, I almost picture like the sirens with the mermaids, where they'll grab you and pull you under the water to the depths. That is the energy. So there's even a duality within feminine energy that exists. So portals are manifestation gates, and this one is a more receptive manifestation. It is not that active manifestation that we think of when we think about putting together our vision boards. That is active. We're taking action in that, where we are writing out the letter from our future self. Some of those more manifestation techniques that are active, this one is very much more related to the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, as within, so without. This one is more reflective. What is within you is going to be reflected in your outer world. So right now, this gateway, this portal is an opportunity to come into alignment internally with what you want to see in the world. And this connects so deeply with the cycle that we're in, the eclipse cycle that we're in. So since the number 2 is connected to the moon, the nodes of the moon shift into a different zodiac sign every 18 months. And that aligns with the eclipse cycle we're in. And eclipses are times of transformation and times of change that bring about alignment in our life and that bring fated experience in our life to get us back onto track. And the nodes just moved. The north node, which shows us what direction we're heading in as a collective, just moved into Taurus, which is the second constellation in the zodiac. And Taurus is all things your values. And when we think about the number 2, we think about partnerships, we think about love, right? But isn't love and values synonymous? If I love something, I value it. And so Taurus is about our values and about embodying our values. And so I love that it's connected to that timeline. So this one feels like a very important portal of this year, since it aligns with the number 2 of Taurus, with the collective energy that we're moving into, with the collective energy that we're moving towards or trying to attain or trying to get into alignment with. Crystals that I would use at this time to work with to help you through this 2 energy, Obsidian is calling out at me. And the reason that Black Obsidian is calling out is because this is something that's actually very potent in shadow work. And with that alignment, what is within me is what I'm going to see in the world. Obsidian acts, it's called, in metaphysical beliefs, we believe that obsidian is like a mirror. And they actually make scrying mirrors out of obsidian. Oh, and wow. So you can gaze, get into a meditative state and gaze into a piece of obsidian, and it is said to mirror what is within you. So I can use obsidian to purposefully sit down and do a meditation and ask that the good that is within me, the values, the embodiment, right? The intuition, the love that is within me, I can ask for it to be mirrored out, reflected out into the world through this piece of obsidian. And also, if I feel like there's something out of alignment within me, but I'm not sure what it is. Sometimes that's the difficult part. When you know there's something that's out of alignment, but you can't put your finger on what it is.
Yeah, I've been there.
You can use Obsidian and ask for it to be reflected, ask for it to be shown through this crystal, through this stone to work with. So that's something that I would work with for the mirroring aspect, for the reflective aspect.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, so much good stuff. Oh my gosh. Definitely drop your questions here if you have any specific questions about the portal. I think that, you know, that's really beautiful. So much of what you touched on, it's funny, but in the virtual circle, we were talking about like the feminine energy that you spoke to earlier, and about how there can be both, right? Like there is so much juiciness, you know, with the sacred feminine. And, you know, the feminine energy is very reflective. So I find that, like, you know, being able to feel into that, you know, kind of during this time, and, you know, what can I look at? And the word embody, like the word embody is one of my words for this year. And that's another aspect of the feminine, is dropping into that body. And I speak a lot about the sacred feminine, so that's why those things I think are jumping out at me, right? But yeah, it's just a beautiful invitation. So if you were to, you know, so you mentioned the crystals, if you were to invite people to, if they don't have time to do anything else during this, you know, kind of energetic portal, what would be an invitation, a question to ask, or maybe a practice that you know that you'll do for yourself that maybe would be an invitation for other sisters to really be able to tap into this and get as much out of it as possible?
For me personally, if I had no time to do anything else, it would be to start really, it would be to sit down and make a list of the top 5 values in my life. Since we are in that second zodiac sign lesson of Taurus, what are your values? What are my top 5 values in life? What do I value most? And then be able to sit down and say, is what I'm putting out into the world, does that reflect those values?
Yeah.
And that's a shadow work. That's a shadow work, you know, lesson for sure. If there was a fly on the wall watching me in my day-to-day life, would they say that my actions reflect what I just wrote down as my values? And that will be a beautiful way to check in with that alignment, and check in with that as above, so below, as within, so without, is what I'm holding within me, value-wise, being reflected externally as well.
I love that. And you have to get honest with yourself, you know, like when you're doing those journaling practices, or you're taking the time to gift yourself the time of introspection, be real with yourself, right? Like that's when you're going to get the most out of it, is that raw honesty. And as you mentioned, I mean, in the chat, like, it might not feel good, but it will be so worth it to really go there, right? And a beautiful piece of a sisterhood space like this is, if you are navigating some heavier things, or things are coming up for you, you can lean into support. You can lean into sisterhood and be like, oh my gosh, like, I unearthed this, like, hey, hold me. You know, that's the beautiful part of Circle.
Yes.
That's the beautiful part of like these kind of communities. And one of the reasons I think the goddess chats are so important is that I know that there is just this massive network of healers and inspiring women, and in all different fields, not just the spiritual or wellness or holistic fields, but that can offer support and what I like to call medicine to women. And we're all going through different journeys. So that's a big piece of this, is to be like, hey, here is who I am. Here's what I feel called to share. And let it be accessible to the women here in the community, right? So that by being like, oh, like, I remember Sarah Nicole was talking about this, like, I'll reach out to her if I'm like wanting to do some shadow work, or if I have questions about crystals, or want to buy amazing jewelry, you know, there's these things. And so I'm just really excited to have this as a way to showcase that. I absolutely love that invitation, and definitely will be doing that myself. Because I would bet that for most of us, there's going to be at least one where we're like, you know, and we might have to really look at it. And then how can you take the, you know, how can you shift from there? You know, what can you implement to get more into alignment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I mean, just as a easy example, I can say that my relationship with my husband is a super high on my value list, you know, but then how often am I really giving him my undivided attention, where I'm sitting down and I'm not working on something or answering a message, or, you know, not very often. And so that's just a very simple example of how it can be hidden right there in plain sight, where my values aren't matching up with my actions.
Yeah, that one resonates really deeply. It's very interesting, and it's never lost on me that so many people are kind of having similar experiences, and that's just what's really beautiful about the collective. But this morning I had that conversation with another woman, I think that's watching, about that, about honoring our partners, and we have them listed, that relationship, that loving relationship, as one of our top priorities. But then we're also so passionate about the work that we do that we find ourselves like not putting it on the back burner, but like we're either always at the computer or on the phone. And like, even if you do prioritize your time, but to, like, you know, to really look at that, be like, okay, not only to look at it and bring awareness to it, but then to take inspired action to make change, because we are empowered enough to choose. Like, you get to choose. So what choices can I make to be in more alignment with those values?
Yeah.
So,
and that's another theme of the number 2 is choices, decisions and choices. And we see that reflected in a couple of the, I have the 2s pulled out of my tarot deck, and a couple of the 2s, we have the representation of being pulled in 2 different directions, of having that choice that we need to make. And then we see it here in the 2 of Wands as well, where we're being pulled in 2 separate directions and having to make that choice. So making those choices is definitely a 2 theme. And so that would be another one where that's something that I would just carry on in my day. That's something that we can do to honor the 2-2 portal. That isn't so much of having to sit down and do something. I'm really big on just mindfulness throughout life always. And so carrying that on, of just being a little bit more mindful about the choices that I make on a daily basis, would be such a simple but impactful way to honor the 2-2 energy.
Absolutely. Yes. I feel that. Chelsea, I knew it was you, my love. I just wasn't going to call you out, though. That was our conversation. But Chelsea owned it. I was talking to Chelsea this morning about it. And she also is very passionate about her work, but also her husband. So, you know, we were talking about that. And I love, it's so interesting, the things that you're bringing up, because it's so much of what we just talked about in Circle.
I love
but
it.
I know it's like blowing my mind a little bit, but also I'm not surprised at all, which is so beautiful about the synchronicity. But we spoke to, you know, consistency, but like small things. It's almost like, you know, because like you said, you don't have to necessarily do anything, but how just through your life can you live it differently, live it more intentionally? I was using the phrase like life as ceremony, right? And I shared this quote that if Hillary Carlisle's watching it, it's her direct quote. But if you're taking something that you're wanting to shift, like let's say it's prioritizing more time with your husband, right? So maybe it's not, oh, I'm going to take, 3 days off of work and only give him attention. Maybe it's something really small. Like, I'm going to shut down my computer and phone and have nothing on during dinner and an hour after, and make sure I'm very present, right? And Hillary shared a quote that was, consistency is the alchemy to transformation. And this quote is like changing my life. And I told her, I was like, I'm sharing it everywhere and giving you direct quote because I love that. But consistency is the alchemy to transformation. And that's the thing. It's these little shifts, and it's living intentionally, right? Instead of the dreaded to-dos of I have to do all of these things to shift and be in alignment. It's just, how can you live it? And right? Like, I don't know if that resonates with you.
No, just, if you go on my TikTok from yesterday, I did a collective reading, and the collective reading came out, and the cards that came out said that the message I received was that a lot of times when we talk about transformation and we talk about releasing what doesn't serve you, and stepping more into your highest self, or stepping more into a life of alignment, a lot of times online it's pictured as this, if there are anyone that's interested in tarot, we call it a tower moment, of this like big radical, release. And that's how it's pictured so much, but rarely is it like that. More often than not, transformation are these very slow but steady, small steps towards something that's more in alignment. And like slow and steady wins the race has been around forever because it's true. And so very
Yes.
rarely is it this all over change where we're just like this dramatic change and transformation. More often than
Right.
not, it's very small, little consistent changes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Ah, I love that. I love when things are like just they're coming through and it's something that's meant to be received, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so opening ourselves up to really hearing these messages. And so if any of you watching or that are with us right now or watching the replay, if you're hearing words like, in Sister Circle, like, it came up the words intention, the words consistency. If you hear certain words on a live, in a podcast, on a Facebook thing, on TikTok, receive that medicine, like feel into your sacred feminine of receiving and take it in, right? Because that message is meant for you. And not all of us are getting the same messages, right? But clearly we are. So like, but you'll notice like with people you're around, you may hear that's why I love Circle, is that when you're hearing things from other women, it's that feeling of like, oh, like you too. And so it's just a beautiful way to feel into the community of humanity instead of always being in our little silos thinking we're experiencing all of this completely on our own, because it's really beautiful how we're not, right? Because like so much of this has been synchronistic even in our chat, and I absolutely love that. You mentioned the tarot, so I want to speak to, because I know that everyone has things to do, and I could talk to you all night about all the things, so I definitely want to honor your time as well. But you mentioned the tarot, so I do want to speak to this, with this being one of the things that you share with the world. You mentioned that you're a clairaudient tarot reader. Can you explain, for those that might not know what clairaudience is, can you speak to what that means? Yeah.
Yes, I love speaking to this actually, because this is something that a lot of us as women stepping into spirituality and starting to connect with that number 2 energy of intuition start to struggle with, because we see it pictured as a certain way. And intuition is something that speaks to, we all have intuition. Every single one of you watching this has intuition. And it is not going to speak to you in the same way that it will speak to someone else. So something you'll hear a lot is the clairs as you're starting to learn about intuition. And they're what you would call psychic gifts or intuitive gifts. And there are 4 main ones. There are other ones as well, but the 4 main ones that you'll hear talked about a lot. The first one that you'll hear talked about a lot is clairvoyance. And that is what we picture when we think about intuition. That is what we've been programmed to believe through media and through, just what we've seen the most is, and clairvoyance is when you see visuals. So a lot of times when you'll go to like a psychic medium, if they can visually describe to you a loved one or a scene that they're seeing, that would be clairvoyance. And so a lot of us think that's intuition. And if I'm not seeing visions in my meditations, then my intuition is not speaking to me. And that's just not the case. That's probably one of the most rare forms of intuition, actually. So I receive intuitive hits or intuitive guidance through auditory messages. So I will hear phrases or comments or song lyrics or words, and that is clairaudience. So it is through hearing. And so this is something that if a song pops into your head, take note of what those lyrics are. Because it might be something that is speaking to you in that moment. It might be something that you need to hear. If you're walking in the grocery store and you're walking by and you happen to walk by someone's conversation at a certain time and you hear a certain phrase or a certain word, take note of that. There might be a message hidden in that. A lot of times people who are clairaudient, when I speak to them, they're the ones that, when you were growing up, when you were a child, did you ever sometimes hear your name being called in the house, but there was nobody in the house?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it's because spirit was calling your name, right? Like you weren't crazy. You were actually hearing your name being called. Spirit was trying to access you. Spirit was trying to communicate with you. And then there are other forms of intuition as well. There's claircognizant, which is where you just know. It's the download. It's the I just know.
Yeah.
I have no, that's the hardest one to trust, because you don't see anything, you
Right.
don't hear anything, you don't feel any, there's no evidence to back it up. You just have to purely trust your intuition. You just have to
Yeah.
trust that gut that I just know.
That's
And
definitely
then
been me
there's,
my whole life. Like even as a kid, I would make really like really strong decisions and like be asked. It was that why question. Why? It's like no, like I just know. Like I know. And like most often I was making choices aligned with what I should have been not should have been choosing, but what was in my best interest to choose. So that's really interesting. So that's one of
I
those
love
because I
that for
definitely
you
yeah.
because that intuitive gifts comes from the solar plexus. And
Okay.
you're such a yellow person. So like, I love that, you know? So
Yeah.
I love
Oh, that's
that.
cool. I love knowing that. I love learning all the things. That's so
Yes.
fun. And then there's another one, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
oh, if, in case anybody, since I said that words, claircognizant comes from the solar plexus. So if you wanted to strengthen that intuitive gift, you would do meditations focusing on that chakra, not on your third eye, because that
Yeah.
strengthens the clairvoyance. So then we're doing all this work to strengthen this when that maybe that's not how your intuition is talking to you. So then people are saying, well, I'm trying to open this up. I'm trying to open this up, but it's not opening. Well, you got to come from it. Yeah. And so with clairaudience, my psychic center is my throat because that is where the clairaudience comes from. And then the last one is clairsentience, which who here in the chat, drop a heart if you identify as an empath. I'm sure there's a bunch of us, okay?
Yeah.
And in today's world, for some reason, that word has become like almost a bad word. You hear it associated with like, oh, I'm an empath, so I attract narcissists. I'm an empath, so I have to be careful about the energy I'm around and you know, energy vampires and all of this stuff. And it's almost been associated as a bad word. And so for anyone who associates as an empath, I always say, like, take your power back. And
Yeah.
you're not just an empath, you're a clairsentient, and that is an intuitive psychic gift, and is the ability to sense and to feel. And so you're not going to get your intuitive hits or your intuitive guidance through visions or through words or through knowing. It'll be through sensing. It will be through feeling. It will be through walking into a room and being able to feel whether an argument just happened there because it still feels tense. It will be maybe, I just had a conversation with somebody about, they found out about an emotional medium where maybe you can pick up an item and feel the story or the energy of that item, right? And so, and that's a beautiful gift. That's a gift. That's being able to, when you walk up and maybe a sister is having a hard time, but she's putting on that smile that so many of us do because we're taught that we have to be strong and we have to be, you know, positive and that love and light. And to be able to sense that, you know, hey, are you really okay? And give them that invitation to let you know what's going on. And so it is, it's a beautiful gift. It's a beautiful gift.
Thank you for sharing more information on that. Like I know like I just learned so much. So like definitely let us know if this is resonating and like what's coming up for you in the chats.
And that one's from the sacral,
that
the
one's sacral too.
clairsentient. Yes, because
Okay.
it's emotions, it's
Yeah,
feeling.
the
That's the
emotions.
sacral.
And how beautiful is it that if we take the time to slow down and pay attention to ourselves, right? We're so outward all the time, but it's such a beautiful invitation to pay attention to what's existing within us and be able to pick up on things like that. Like I loved when you were sharing about the clairaudient, like if you're, how often are we just mindlessly walking through the grocery store? And it comes back to what we spoke about earlier, that living with intention. How can you move a little more slowly and tap into your senses? And what are you noticing? And it makes life really fun. like I, you know what I mean? Almost like a video game where it's like, what message am I gonna get? Like, you know, I love it. It's so fun to see because there is such magic like around us in this world if we can slow down and tune into it, you know? And, you know, a beautiful way that people can start, you know, exploring some of this is through, you know, connecting with people like you and getting readings and learning more about, you know, themselves. So I think, you know, because I know that we've been on here for a bit, so I do want to honor your time, but I would love if you would speak a little bit about, you know, if it's specific to the tarot, like, you know, what services you offer. And then also I definitely want to touch on, you know, the crystal healing, because I love when you spoke about the looking at the obsidian and, you know, having it be a reflection. And so we have these tools that are here on this planet for us if we'll only pay attention and slow down enough to use them, right? And it makes it such a more fulfilling existence to be able to tap into all of this, right? Like, I love being an adult that believes in magic. Like, I love it. Like, you know, like, because as a child, like, you know, when you outgrow that, there's these times that life is way more boring if you don't believe in all the things. I'm like, give me all the fairies and all the fun stuff. Like, I'm here for it.
Yes.
But yeah, if you'll speak a little bit about, you know, how people can work with you to maybe learn more about the tarot if they're interested, and then definitely on the crystals and the Reiki, to speak a little bit about, because you offer a lot, and I love the way your bio, you mentioned something about your astrological sign and how it ties into the fact that you do all of these things. So maybe speak to that too. Yeah, I love that.
So my midheaven is it's what it's called. It's a placement in your zodiac chart. You know, you're more than your sun sign. You're not just your sun sign. You're so many things. And so my midheaven placement, which speaks to what you do in the world, like your purpose, your calling, your career, usually is what it's called, labeled under, is Gemini. And Gemini is that duality. It's the twins. It's the, you know, that very social, curious, like, I want to have my hands in all the things. And so there was no way that I was just going to be one thing. So sometimes my partner has to reel me in and be like, you know, stay in your lane. Let's not add something else to. And I'm like, I want to do all the things though.
Right.
And so yeah, that's why. And once I found that in my chart, it was like, oh, then I'm going to stop trying to put myself in a box.
Yeah, do all the things.
Which is so funny with, you know, social media marketing, because they say, you know, you have to have a niche, and I'm like, not for me. So yes, I do. I offer tarot readings. You know, I don't like the word psychic. I'm so hesitant to use that word because of it can mean so many different things to so many different people, and to a lot of people, what we hear that as now is future teller. And I don't believe in future telling. I don't believe that tarot tells the future. I think because we make our own futures. Your future is not set in stone. You make your own future. Your future is a culmination of the thoughts, the actions, and the beliefs that you take in this moment. And so what the tarot does is it reads the current energy. And off of that current energy, it will give us the most likely outcome based on the current energy. And I find that beautiful, because I speak to some people who have had a tarot reading and some negative things came out in their tarot reading, and they thought, and for whatever reason, they, you know, whether it was not being explained enough, they thought, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen, and it was just doom and gloom. Whereas I am always very apt to tell people, if you don't like what comes out in your reading, then that puts the power back to you. I'm about empowerment. Okay, so now let's turn some more cards and let's see, so what actions do we need to take? What thoughts, beliefs, actions need to change to have a different outcome? And it's also just about, so I use it more for personal growth, for development. I use it a little bit more for making decisions. I like that one. Maybe I'm deciding between two choices, two career paths, whatever it may be, and I like to pull cards for choice A and pull cards for choice B, and just feel what the energy is of both choices so that I can decide. I also offer a chakra tarot reading. That one is one that I really love to do, because you get a card for each of the 7 main chakras, and in that one is where I can usually see which of those energy centers are stronger in you. So which one maybe do you receive your intuition from? Is it through the sacral? Is it that clairsentience? Is it third eye? Is it clairvoyance? And be able to kind of know where to go with that and how to bring you into alignment. Yeah, I also do birth chart readings, full birth chart readings. And again, with astrology, there's so many different forms of astrology. I study what is called evolutionary astrology. And in that, we see the placements as roadmaps for your soul's evolution, for your soul's growth. And it's just about better understanding you and better understanding the lessons that you came here to learn, what your karmic gifts are, what the karmic debts are, and kind of just what direction we're meant to go in for our soul's growth. And then also, yeah, crystal Reiki sessions. So I do those mainly distance crystal Reiki sessions. And I just love that. I love it because it's just such a confirmation that energy, we're also connected. That energy does not know time and does not know distance. I'll often tell my clients that I'll message you when the session is complete, but that you'll probably feel it.
Yeah.
You'll feel when that connection has been severed or has been ended or has been completed, you know. And a lot of times they'll say, oh my gosh, I did feel it. Like I felt it. And then I opened my eyes and I looked at my phone and you had said, okay, session's complete.
It's so beautiful how that can happen. I remember when I had my first distance session like several years ago when I was living back in Virginia. I wasn't, not that I was a skeptic, but I wasn't quite sure if I would like actually experience anything. And then I was actually blown away at how much I was able to experience. And again, it's just being open to receiving, being open to, could this be a possibility, instead of always shutting down, and being curious, right? Like being curious, like, well, what if I did feel something, and what if? And I do want to mention that I love what you spoke about with the tarot and the way that you approach it from that place of feeling when you flip the cards over. Because something I'll do with my kids, my son has a very hard time like making decisions, even about like a snack. He wants to like ask everyone like which snack could he have, and I'm like, you know, which one like feels like the right one that you want. And he's like, I don't know. And so I'm like, okay, we'll flip a coin, but not to say that if you get heads it has to be heads. If you get heads and you're disappointed, then you want the snack that was associated with tails. Like, do you know what I mean? And so it's coming from that place of feeling. So I love that you do tarot in that way. That's beautiful, because it is. Yeah. And you spoke so much about coming back to these tools that you're offering people is ultimately an invitation to then take what they've received and open themselves up to, and then make those choices, right? Like we were talking about the twos and this portal, it all comes back to the choices, because we have that power. We are empowered to make those choices moving forward. And you're just, you know, opening up the tools and the resources available. And so I think that's beautiful. I definitely do not want to end this conversation though without talking about your amazing crystal jewelry, because you know I'm like an ongoing customer, all of the things. Oh my gosh. But speak a little bit about it, and definitely about the new goddesses that you're dropping, because I'm going to get my hands on one. I always miss them, but it's so exciting. So yeah, speak a little bit about that, and then maybe we can wrap up by telling people how to actually find you. And we'll also I'll drop all the links and everything. But yeah.
Yes, I love doing the jewelry. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, so I am metal sensitive. And I'm not allergic to metal. It doesn't break me out. Metal is conductive. And so something that is conductive does is it amplifies the energy. I suffer from severe anxiety, generalized anxiety, as well as social anxiety. And so for me personally, when I wear metal, it conducts and it amplifies that energy in me. There was a very long trial and error period to find out that that was what it was. And yeah, I never thought about it. And then once I started realizing, oh my gosh, yes, like and I used to love all the wire wrapped crystals, and I would buy them knowing that I couldn't wear them just because I wanted to support and just because I loved them. And so I started teaching myself how to macrame wrap crystals in order for myself to be able to wear crystal jewelry, in order for myself to be able to utilize crystal healing in a wearable way. And then it kind of just went from there. I met other women who were sensitive to metal, and then I met other women who maybe they weren't sensitive to metal, but maybe they just liked the more earthy, more natural style of the cording. I actually have a couple pieces right here.
Yes, show these gorgeous pieces, and definitely we're going to tag her pages. Go there, join the group, because you blow my mind, your artistry. It's absolutely
So here's
stunning.
one I just made the other day.
Oh,
and then and it's all knot work. And so not only is it jewelry and not only is it crystal healing, but not magic is a thing. So in this bracelet, there's thousands of knots in this one bracelet. So every time here's one of the more difficult things with my jewelry is that a lot of people say, I love your jewelry, where can I shop? I don't have anything ready-made. Mm-hmm. I specialize in custom jewelry. Every now and then I'll have something ready-made and I'll post it, but very rarely. Usually I operate on about a 2 to 3 week wait list for custom jewelry. And I think that that is even more powerful, especially with the knot work, because when I am creating a piece of jewelry, I know who this is going to. Not only do I know who it's going to, I know why it's going to them. We've already had a consultation about what intention are you working on right now. Okay, well, these are the crystals that I think would, benefit for that. Here's some options for you. Do these fit your aesthetic? Because listen, I get it. It's aesthetic too. It's jewelry. So we make it work both ways. And I know who it's going to. And so I can sit there while I am tying the knots and I can weave that intention into it, and I can weave Reiki into it for that person. And so that's why I think that the custom jewelry will always be the mainstay of the jewelry portion for me. Would it be easier to just make stuff and then post it on a website? Absolutely. But the magic that goes into knowing who it's for, knowing what it's for, and being able to weave that intention into it is just absolutely priceless.
Yes. I do want to share, the jewelry is gorgeous, but you're so heart-led and intentional. Like, you truly are, like, it's just such a blessing to know you. And I do want to share that because I know without a doubt that as you're doing these knots, like, there is such love and care and intention going into these pieces. So, and I have many of them, and I feel that, and I know that to be true of you as a person. So definitely we'll drop, the links. And if there's anything you want to share about how people can reach you, please definitely let them know. Oh yes, we got to talk the goddesses first, because this is the Goddess Collective after all. Please show the goddesses.
So that's where these came into play, actually, is because I'm sure there's many artists in this group. There's many creatives in this group. And so, like I said, I love the custom work. I love it. But as an artist, in a creative aspect, sometimes you want to make something that's not this stone, this color, this, and so that's where the goddesses came into play. They're a form of additional creative expression. So I'm not doing customs on these because they come to life. When I tell you they come to life, I've been trying to make an opal goddess for the past month, and none of them have claimed the opal. I'm like, will someone please pick this opal? I want to make an opal goddess so bad. And they're all like, no, I don't want that stone.
Not for me.
Not that one, not yet.
No.
So yes, so now I make these on Wednesdays. They're clay, so they're hand sculpted, hand created, and hand cured, and then decorated and painted all by me. And they're a labor of love, and they come to life and they speak the stone that they wish. I make them on Wednesdays, and then they're very small batches since they are all handmade. And they each have an intention that they help with, and then they're posted in the group, and people set the alarms, and I've been blown away by the response with the goddesses, and I'm so glad that everyone loves them as much as I do, and I wish I could just spend all day making them. But yeah, so every week they're posted, and oh my gosh, I just love them so much. And Pearl, she has one, and she can attest to the fact that they have their own little personalities. Like, hers likes dark chocolate, and I'm just like, oh, I love that. That's awesome. But yes, you can find You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. You can find my services, so tarot, astrology, and crystal Reiki under Twisted Goddess Tarot on both Facebook and Instagram. And then you can find the jewelry and the goddesses, so my products, on Facebook and Instagram under Twisted Goddess Crystals. And then I'm also on TikTok as just Twisted Goddess. So,
and her reels are amazing. Her TikTok videos are amazing. You're so great at them, and they're awesome and hilarious and very informative. So you are just continuing to inspire me on the daily, my friend. And just this chat alone shows that you just have so much wisdom to share, and you're just so tapped into like who the hell you are and what you were here to share with the world, and you do it with such grace and love. Thank you for being the first official Goddess Chat guest of 2022. I'm so excited. And to be able to do it during this portal is so cool. Like, definitely excited to do it during the portal. And is there anything, you know, final that you want to share with the sisterhood before we sign off for the night? Any last message or anything that you would like to end with?
Just a reminder of, you know, that hermetic principle. So just continually repeat that to yourself, and keep that, hold that close to your heart, that as above, so below. But then there's a second part to that principle: as within, so without. So if I want more love in my life, I be more love. If I want more joy in my life, I be more joy. If I, you know, so that our lives are a reflection of us. To a certain extent. There are, you know, we deal with other people. And so when they come into our lives are a reflection of them. But yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and energy. So much love. Thank you to everyone watching. We'll definitely come back and chat in the comments. And, you know, so if you have any questions for Sarah Nicole about her services or about anything that we touched on, please drop them in the comments. We'll spend some time communicating with you there. And if you hopped on at the end and we're getting ready to sign off, just know that this is being recorded. So I'm going to archive it to the guide section under Goddess Chats. And that's where all of these will live. And then eventually, once I get my YouTube page done, we'll upload it there, and you'll be able to check that out too. So much love, my soul sister. I will talk to you soon. And sisters, thank you for being here with us tonight. Bye.